kind of learning to live with my neurodiversity, it has taken, I would say I'm only just getting into a groove now with understanding what I need to do for myself. Things have progressed over that last, well, what are we, about 18 months since I had that ADHD diagnosis. Um, and I do change the way I work, have changed the way I work. I actually realized that 10 years ago when I left my career in London was probably because I had totally burnt out because I was juggling, too many things. And I think working for myself now, having my own business means that I've got that flexibility, and so I can realize that I love presenting in front of a room full of people, but it uses an awful lot of executive functioning. So those executive functionings are, literally getting yourself up in the morning, getting yourself to the right place, knowing where you're going. It can be quite taxing on your brain cells. And so things, simple things like I have Google Street View. So if I'm going somewhere I've never been before, the day before, I'll always make sure that I look at Google Street View so that I've got an idea. I'm very visual, and so I've got an idea of what it looks like when I get to that actual building. Um, Other things that I do is I realize I need to have downtime. So if I am, and I love presenting and I love standing up in front of a room full of people or doing it virtually, doing my trainings, but I do now know that I can't go from that straight into something else. I need to have some downtime. I need to have a bit of a rest. So being self-employed, having my own business allows me that flexibility to do that, which is really important. So I am learning as we go along of all the different things that I need to do. I've also got an assistant now, so who is amazing, and I've had that through Access to Work. So through the DWP, Access to Work has given me a grant that I can use. So Sarah is my support worker, and she assists me every day. We have a catch up, and she keeps me on the straight and narrow, as it were, and reminds me I've got to do things. And I actually don't know how I coped before I had her in my life. So she is really, really instrumental in how I, have continued working the way I have. But so that has been fantastic, and not a lot of people know about that. So it is something that, even if you are employed by a company, you still have that. You can still apply for Access to Work, and it just means that your employer can then make some reasonable adjustments for you at work that makes life a little bit easier. So I took an office last year, actually moved into an office, which I thought was what I needed to do to grow my business. And actually, I think it had a detrimental effect on me a little bit, and I've come back to working from home. That doesn't mean to say I don't go out and I go into businesses when I'm delivering my training or do it virtually, but that worked for me because it was, I used to get a lot of migraines, and I now realize that was just my brain was overworked and it needed to have a break. So if that happens, it doesn't happen so often now, but if it does happen, I know that I can take myself off and go and lie down. So if you work in a busy environment, that can be too overstimulating, too distracting for you, and you're really having to use a lot of executive functioning to focus on the work that you're doing. So it's really important that you kind of take that view of, like, how do I need to change my environment? So my environment works really well for me now.